The coffee shop collision. The morning sun painted the city streets in shades of gold and amber as Natalie Brooks rushed down the crowded sidewalk. Her phone pressed against her ear, her mother's voice crackling with anxiety through the speaker. Natalie clutched a garment bag in her free hand. Inside was the dress she would wear that night to her father's 60th birthday celebration. "Your father has worked so hard for this party," Margaret Brooks said, her tone heavy with worry. "All our relatives will be there. The successful ones. The ones who look down on us." Natalie sighed, dodging a businessman who nearly collided with her. "I know, Mom. I'll be there. But you need to bring someone," her mother pressed. "A date. Someone presentable. Your Uncle Victor made it very clear that if this party isn't impressive, he won't even attend. Can you imagine the humiliation?" The words stung because Natalie understood the weight behind them. Her father, Richard Brooks, had spent his entire savings and borrowed money from friends to rent an expensive venue for this one night. All to prove that he wasn't the family failure Victor always implied he was. "Mom, I don't have anyone to bring," Natalie said quietly, her heart sinking. "I've been working double shifts at the office. I haven't exactly had time for dating." There was a long pause. "Just don't come alone, Natalie. Please. For your father." The call ended, and Natalie felt the pressure settle on her shoulders like a heavy coat. She turned the corner toward the boutique where she needed to return a borrowed necklace, her mind spinning with worry. How could she possibly find a date in less than 12 hours? Lost in thought, she didn't see the man stepping out of the upscale cafe ahead. One moment she was walking. The next she collided with something solid. Hot liquid splashed across fabric and Natalie gasped in horror. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." The man stood perfectly still. He wore an expensive white shirt that now bore a large coffee stain spreading across the chest. His dark hair was neatly styled, his face calm and unreadable. Behind him, a sleek black Mercedes waited at the curb, a driver standing beside it. Natalie's face flushed with embarrassment. "I wasn't looking." "I'm so sorry, let me help you." She frantically searched her bag for tissues, her hands shaking. But before she could find anything, the man calmly unbuttoned his stained shirt and removed it, revealing a clean undershirt beneath. He handed the ruined shirt to his driver without a word, his movements precise and controlled. "I'll pay for it," Natalie blurted out. "Or dry cleaning, or whatever you need. Just tell me how much." The man finally looked at her directly. His eyes were a deep brown, intelligent and assessing. He didn't seem angry, just curious. "It's just a shirt," he said quietly. But Natalie couldn't let it go. The stress of the day, her mother's demands, the impossible situation she faced, it all came crashing down at once. And before she could stop herself, the words tumbled out. "I know this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but I need a huge favor." He raised an eyebrow slightly. Natalie took a deep breath. "Will you pretend to be my boyfriend tonight? Just for a few hours. I'll pay you. Whatever you want." The man studied her for a long moment. People passed by on the busy sidewalk, but the space between them felt strangely quiet. "Why would you ask a stranger that?" he finally said. "Because I'm desperate," Natalie admitted, her voice cracking. "It's my father's 60th birthday party tonight. My family expects me to bring someone successful, someone impressive. My uncle is awful, and he's always made my dad feel small. This party is everything to my father, and I can't show up alone. I just can't." She gestured weakly at him. "And you look like you'd fit in. You look successful, professional. I know it's insane to ask, but I'm out of options." The silence stretched. Natalie prepared herself for rejection, for him to walk away and leave her standing there like a fool. But instead something shifted in his expression. A flicker of recognition, perhaps, or understanding. "What's your name?" he asked. "Natalie. Natalie Brooks." He nodded slowly as if confirming something to himself. "I'll do it." Natalie blinked, certain she'd misheard. "What?" "I'll be your boyfriend for tonight," he said calmly. "But I won't take your money." "Are you serious?" "Completely." He pulled a business card from his wallet and handed it to her. "Text me the address and time. I'll be there." Natalie looked down at the card. It was simple, elegant, with just a name and phone number printed in black letters. Sebastian Ashford. "Thank you," she whispered, overwhelmed. "I don't know what to say." Sebastian gave her a small smile, the first real expression she'd seen from him. "Just tell me one thing. What should I know about you, so I don't mess this up tonight?" The grand deception. The venue was more beautiful than Natalie had imagined. Her father had chosen a historic mansion on the outskirts of the city, a place with soaring ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and gardens lit by hundreds of tiny lights. Classical music drifted through the air as guests in elegant attire mingled and sipped champagne. Natalie arrived in her borrowed dress, a deep emerald gown that made her feel both confident and terrified. Beside her walked Sebastian, transformed into someone who belonged in this world of wealth and sophistication. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, his hair styled, his presence commanding without being arrogant. "You look nervous," he murmured as they approached the entrance. "I am," Natalie admitted. "My family can be intense." "Then hold onto my arm and let me handle it." The moment they stepped inside, heads turned. Natalie saw her mother's eyes widen, her father pause mid-conversation. With a guest, Clara, her younger sister, actually dropped her champagne glass in surprise. Margaret Brooks rushed over, her face a mixture of relief and curiosity. "Natalie, you came? And who is this?" "Mom, this is Sebastian," Natalie said, trying to keep her voice steady. "My boyfriend." Sebastian extended his hand with perfect politeness. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Brooks. Natalie has told me so much about tonight. Congratulations to your husband." Margaret shook his hand, clearly impressed. "Well, it's wonderful to finally meet you." Natalie never mentioned she was seeing anyone. "We've been keeping things quiet," Sebastian said smoothly, "but I wouldn't miss celebrating Mr. Brooks's birthday for anything." As the evening progressed, Natalie found herself amazed by how naturally Sebastian played his role. He remembered names after hearing them once. He asked thoughtful questions about people's lives and businesses. He stood close to Natalie, his hand resting gently on the small of her back, the gesture protective and intimate. When Richard Brooks approached, Natalie held her breath. Her father looked distinguished in his tuxedo, but she could see the tension in his shoulders, the worry in his eyes that this night might not be enough. "Dad, this is Sebastian Ashford," Natalie said. "Sebastian, my father." The two men shook hands, and Natalie watched as her father's expression softened. "Thank you for coming, Sebastian. It means a lot to Natalie, which means everything to me." "The honor is mine, sir," Sebastian replied. "You have a remarkable daughter." Richard's eyes misted slightly, and he nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Then Victor Brooks appeared, cutting through the crowd like a shark sensing prey. Natalie's uncle was a large man with a permanent sneer and expensive clothes that he wore like armor. "So this is the mysterious boyfriend," Victor said loudly, drawing attention. "Let me guess. Middle management? Sales? Please don't tell me you're an artist." Sebastian met Victor's challenge with calm composure. "I work in hospitality," he said simply. "Hospitality," Victor repeated with a mocking laugh. "So a waiter then?" "Uncle Victor," Natalie said sharply, but Sebastian squeezed her hand gently. "Manage properties," Sebastian said, his voice still pleasant. "I find that helping people feel welcomed and comfortable is rewarding work." Victor snorted, but moved on to find someone else to belittle. Natalie exhaled in relief. "I'm sorry about him." "Don't be," Sebastian said. "Men like that reveal more about themselves than they realize." As the band began playing a slow jazz melody, Sebastian turned to Natalie. "Would you like to dance?" She hesitated, suddenly aware of how many people were watching them. "I'm not." "Very good. Neither am I," he said with a smile. "But we'll figure it out together." On the dance floor, under the soft glow of chandeliers, Sebastian took Natalie's hand in his. His other hand settled on her waist, and they began moving to the music. At first, Natalie focused on her steps, trying not to stumble. But gradually, she relaxed into the rhythm. "You're doing great." Sebastian said quietly. Natalie looked up at him, and for a moment she forgot about the performance they were supposed to be giving. His eyes were kind, his smile genuine. "Thank you for this," she whispered. "For everything tonight." "It's not difficult to pretend to care about someone worth caring about," he replied. The words hung between them, and Natalie felt her heart skip. This was supposed to be fake, just a role they were playing. But something in his voice, in the way he looked at her, felt dangerously real. The music swelled, and other couples joined them on the floor. Natalie let herself enjoy the moment. The warmth of Sebastian's hand, the security of being held, the illusion that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. Then Victor's voice cut through the magic like a knife. "Those cufflinks," Victor said loudly, pointing at Sebastian's wrists. "Where did you get those?" The music continued, but several people stopped dancing. Sebastian's expression remained neutral, but Natalie felt him tense slightly. "They were a gift," Sebastian said. Victor pushed closer, his eyes narrowed. "Those are custom-made, limited edition. Only senior executives at Ashford International Hotels receive those. I know because I tried to buy a pair once and was told they weren't for sale." Natalie's blood ran cold. She looked at Sebastian, confusion flooding her mind. Ashford International, but that's one of the largest hotel chains in the country. Victor's face twisted with realization and fury. "You're not just some hospitality worker. You're Sebastian Ashford. You own Ashford International. You're the man who bought out half my company 3 years ago and forced me into early retirement." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to them. Natalie felt the ground shift beneath her feet. She stared at Sebastian, betrayal and shock warring in her chest. "You own hotels?" she whispered. "You're a millionaire?" Sebastian met her gaze, his expression pained but honest. "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because," he said quietly, "I wanted you to see me, not my money." But before Natalie could respond, her father appeared, his face pale with humiliation. Margaret grabbed Natalie's arm, pulling her aside. Victor stood triumphant, enjoying the chaos he'd created. "Did you know?" Richard asked, his voice breaking. "Did you know who he was? What he did to Victor?" "No," Natalie said, tears stinging her eyes. "I didn't know anything." The perfect evening shattered like glass. Guests whispered and stared. Clara looked horrified, and Sebastian stood alone in the center of the dance floor, surrounded by judgment and anger. Natalie's heart twisted. She didn't know what to feel, what to think, what to do. All she knew was that nothing about tonight had been real, and the man who had played his part so perfectly had been lying to her from the very beginning. The truth unveiled. The garden confession. Natalie couldn't breathe inside the mansion anymore. The whispers, the stares, the weight of her family's disappointment pressed against her chest like a vice. She pushed through the crowd, ignoring her mother's calls, and escaped to the garden behind the venue. The night air was cool and crisp, scented with jasmine and roses. Fairy lights twinkled overhead, strung between old oak trees. In any other circumstance, it would have been romantic. Now it just felt like a stage for her humiliation. She heard footsteps behind her and didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "Natalie," Sebastian said quietly. "Don't." She held up her hand, still facing away from him. "Just don't. I need to explain." "Explain what?" She finally turned, anger and hurt blazing in her eyes. "That you lied to me? That you let me make a fool of myself asking a millionaire to pretend to be my boyfriend? That you played along like it was some kind of game?" "It wasn't a game," Sebastian said, his voice steady but urgent. "And I never lied to you. You never asked my full name. You never asked what I did." "That's a technicality, and you know it." Natalie wrapped her arms around herself. "You let me believe you were just some regular guy doing me a favor. But you're Sebastian Ashford. You probably thought this whole thing was hilarious. Poor desperate girl begging a stranger for help. No." The word came out sharp, almost pained. Sebastian stepped closer, and for the first time she saw real emotion breaking through his usual composure. That's not what I thought at all. Then what? Why didn't you tell me the truth? Sebastian was silent for a moment, his jaw working. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out something small, a handkerchief. Old, faded, with frayed edges and a small embroidered heart in one corner done in pink thread. Natalie stared at it, confused. What is that? This, Sebastian said softly, holding it between them like a precious treasure. Belongs to you. The memory, 8 years ago, Sebastian began, his voice quiet but clear. I was 22 years old and angry at the world. My father had just cut me off financially, said I needed to learn what it meant to struggle. I was riding a motorcycle I'd borrowed through the old part of the city. It was raining. I was going too fast. Natalie listened, her anger slowly giving way to curiosity. I lost control on a sharp turn and crashed. The bike pinned my leg, and I'd cut my arm badly on broken glass. I was lying there in a dirty alley, bleeding, and person after person walked past me. Some looked. Most didn't. No one stopped. His eyes met hers, and in them she saw something vulnerable, something raw. Then you came. Natalie's breath caught. You were wearing jeans and an oversized white sweater, Sebastian continued. Your hair was in a messy braid. You couldn't have been more than 19 or 20. You knelt down in the rain without hesitation, ruined your sweater trying to stop the bleeding. You used this, he held up the handkerchief, to clean the cut on my forehead. And when you saw how bad my arm was, you tore a strip from your sweater to tie around it. Natalie's hand flew to her mouth as the memory came flooding. Back, the alley, the rain, the young man with desperate, frightened eyes. You stayed with me until the ambulance came, Sebastian said. You held my hand and told me I was going to be okay. And then, before I could even ask your name, you were gone. I had a final exam, Natalie whispered, the memory now crystal clear. I was late. I just ran. I kept this handkerchief, Sebastian said, his voice thick with emotion. For 8 years. Through business school, through building my company, through every success and failure, I carried it with me. It reminded me that there was still kindness in the world, that there were still people who helped others without expecting anything in return. He took a step closer. When you spilled coffee on me this morning, I recognized you immediately. Your face, your voice, the way you apologized too much and talked too fast when you were nervous. It was you. Tears streamed down Natalie's cheeks. Why didn't you say something? Because I wanted to know if you were still that person, Sebastian said. The girl who helped a stranger in the rain. I wanted to see if that kindness was real or just a moment in time, so when you asked me to be your fake boyfriend, I said yes. Not because I pitied you, not because I thought it was funny, but because I wanted to be near you, to know you, to maybe, finally, say thank you. Natalie couldn't speak. 8 years. He'd remembered her for 8 years. And tonight, Sebastian continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Pretending to be your boyfriend wasn't hard, Natalie, because I wasn't pretending. Not about caring for you, not about wanting to protect you, not about any of it. She looked down at the handkerchief, at the small pink heart she'd stitched during a high school sewing class. She remembered carrying it everywhere that year, proud of her handiwork. She'd forgotten all about it after that rainy night, but he hadn't forgotten. He'd kept it close to his heart for 8 years. I'm sorry I didn't tell you who I was, Sebastian said, but I'm not sorry I came tonight, and I'm not sorry for falling for you all over again. Natalie's heart shattered and healed simultaneously. Sebastian! Before she could say more, angry voices erupted from the mansion. They turned to see Victor storming toward them, with Richard and Margaret close behind. The confrontation. How dare you show your face here? Victor snarled at Sebastian. You destroyed my company. You took everything I built and tore it apart. Sebastian stood his ground, his composure returning. I bought a failing company and restructured it. I kept 80% of the employees. I saved hundreds of jobs. You humiliated me. No, Sebastian said calmly. You humiliated yourself by running a company into the ground through poor decisions. And ego. I just cleaned up the mess. Victor lunged forward, but Richard grabbed his brother's arm. Victor, stop. Your daughter brought this man into your home, Victor shouted. After what he did to our family. He did nothing to our family, Richard said quietly but firmly. He did something to your company, and from what I've read, he did it better than you ever did. Victor stared at his brother in shock. You're defending him? Richard looked at Natalie, then at Sebastian. I'm defending my daughter's right to choose who she cares about, and I'm defending common sense. You lost that company because you refused to adapt, refused to listen, refused to change. That's not his fault. Margaret touched her husband's arm, pride shining in her eyes. Victor's face turned purple with rage. Fine. Stay here with this corporate vulture and his little gold digger. I'm leaving. Wait, Natalie said, her voice cutting through the tension. Everyone turned to look at her. She stepped forward, her spine straight, her eyes clear. I'm not a gold digger. I didn't know who Sebastian was when I asked for his help. I just knew I needed someone, and he was kind enough to say yes. She looked at her father. Dad, I'm sorry if I embarrassed you. That was never my intention. I just wanted you to have one night where you didn't feel small, where you didn't feel like you had to prove anything to anyone. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart. But the truth is, Natalie continued, her voice growing stronger, you've never been small. Not to me, not to Mom, not to Clara. You've always been enough, more than enough, and anyone who can't see that isn't worth impressing. She turned to Victor. You've spent your whole life measuring people by their bank accounts and their business successes. But you know what? Sebastian remembered a stranger who helped him 8 years ago. He kept a handkerchief close to his heart because it reminded him to be better. When did you last do something that wasn't about money or status? Victor opened his mouth, closed it, then turned and stormed away into the night. Natalie faced her. Parents, I don't know what's going to happen with Sebastian and me. Maybe nothing, maybe something, but I need you to trust that I'm smart enough to make my own choices. Margaret stepped forward and pulled Natalie into a tight embrace. We do trust you, sweetheart. We always have. Richard joined the embrace, and for a moment the three of them stood together under the fairy lights while the party continued inside. When they finally separated, Natalie's parents returned to their guests, leaving her alone with Sebastian once more. The choice. That was brave, Sebastian said softly. Natalie wiped her eyes. I'm tired of being afraid of what people think. Good. He held out the handkerchief. This belongs to you. She took it, her fingers brushing against his. Keep it, she said. Consider it payment for tonight. Sebastian smiled, but there was sadness in it. I should go. I've caused enough trouble. Wait. Natalie grabbed his hand. You said you weren't pretending tonight, about caring for me. I wasn't. Then don't leave. She squeezed his hand. Give me a chance to get to know the real you, not the fake boyfriend, not the CEO, just Sebastian, the man who keeps handkerchiefs in his pocket and remembers acts of kindness. Hope flickered in his eyes. Are you sure? Your family, my family will survive, Natalie said. Besides, my father just defended you against his own brother. I think that counts for something. Sebastian laughed, a genuine sound of relief and joy. Then I'm not going anywhere. 3 months later. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Natalie's apartment. She stood in the kitchen making coffee, still wearing Sebastian's shirt from the night before, when her phone buzzed with a message from Clara. Dad just told Uncle Victor that you and Sebastian are officially dating. Victor hung up on him. Mom is laughing. This is the best day ever. Natalie smiled and set down her phone just as arms wrapped around her waist from behind. What's funny? Sebastian murmured against her neck. My uncle is having a breakdown and my family is celebrating. Sounds about right. He turned her around to face him. Any regrets? Natalie looked up at the man who had remembered her for 8 years, who had said yes to a desperate request from a stranger, who had proven that sometimes the best love stories start with a little bit of chaos. Not a single one, she said, and kissed him. Outside, the city continued its morning routine, full of strangers passing each other without a second glance. But somewhere in that chaos, kindness still existed. Memories still mattered. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, a handkerchief with a pink embroidered heart could lead you back to the person you were always meant to find. If this story touched your heart even just a little, if you believe that kindness can heal and that love can grow from the most unexpected places, then don't forget to hit that hype button and subscribe to Everyverse Stories for more powerful tales that remind us what truly matters. We share real emotional and inspiring stories that speak to the soul. Your support helps us keep telling the stories that move the world. Subscribe, hit, and stay with us for stories that heal. This is Everyverse Stories. See you in the next one.